Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day to start things off. In news that is everywhere news, Binance US has joined other major crypto exchanges in the staking game, adding staking rewards for cryptocurrencies Algorand and Cosmos. Announced on Wednesday, the exchange said returns will be given on a monthly basis starting on the 1st of February. Algorand and Cosmos are the only proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies currently available on Binance US, a California-based licensee of one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges. Binance US now joins Kraken and Coinbase and offering staking rewards on proof-of-stake coins, though the latter two exchanges only offer staking on Tezos. I assume if not by the middle of next week, it'll be the end of next week. This is a huge assumption. We will probably get news from Kraken or Coinbase that they're probably also going to be offering Algorand and or Cosmos as well. Crypto exchanges usually don't let themselves fall too far behind, and I can only assume that they've also have a huge roster of other proof-of-stake coins that they've been waiting to be able to announce openly that they're going to have staking on their platform. Binance US currently offers 28 cryptocurrencies on its platform, with U.S. compliance laws remaining a top concern for the Binance offshoot. The firm says it's waiting for further regulatory clarity on Tezos, which is kind of weird as the other ones have already listed it. Binance US CEO Catherine Coley told CoinDesk the exchange hopes to offer additional staking rewards once more proof-of-stake assets are listed. An expected return per coin was not included in the Binance US announcement. Tezos staking returns on both Kraken and Coinbase is roughly at 6%, according to network figures. I won't even assume the actual percentages for Algorand and Cosmos. The point being, this was news that was everywhere news. It's kind of remember when first of all, how do I put this in the really simplest way? You all know that I think Bitcoin is going to make it. However, I've mentioned before, I don't see a world, at least for the next, I'll give you 15, 20 years, heavy time frame, not even a rough, heavy time frame, where Bitcoin is going to be the only coin used. That doesn't mean that every coin is going to make it. That doesn't mean that every coin in the top 20 is going to flourish and shine. It's more of there's a lot of corporate money floating around now. And I mentioned this before when Tezos was popping up everywhere and there were Tezos this and there was Tezos that and everyone loved Tezos randomly out of nowhere. I feel like there are definitely coins that are being made by companies, by institutions that are for this entire point, and it's going to be for staking. In the future, finance is going to be very different. We are in a world right now where the financial system is looking like at some point it's going to go bust. People can no longer go to their banks to be able to get money from their bank, not like taking it out, but as far as like an interest rate, nobody wants an interest rate of 0.25% on their bank account. You make absolutely nothing. So the more attractive version then becomes, especially when you think about all the banks that are actually backing a lot of these, not consortiums, businesses and things like that. And these people are raising 25 million in one go, yada, yada, yada. It comes down to a world where you can then offer and say, hey, we will give you, even if it's roughly 6%, if you own X amount of this crypto. This then causes a huge rush to be able to get that crypto, especially if, once again, 5 years down the line, which I am kind of expecting as well. The same exact thing happens for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price where it is right now, and then you go back around a good 5 years ago, you have that situation where people go, oh gosh, I wish I had bought that coin 5 years ago, and the people start accumulating now, hoping for bigger gains in the future. I think the same exact thing will happen with many of these coins. I'm not saying it's going to be Cosmos. I'm not saying it's going to be Algorand. I'm not saying it's going to be Tezos. I'm not saying it's going to be Cardano. And I'm not saying it's going to be Ethereum with proof of stake. But I think at least a huge portion of these coins or other coins are going to make it. And these will be the new side income money coins, if that really makes any sense. Because there's far too much support behind all of these things for them not to... I don't want to use the word make it, but once we start getting articles about how some person made $60,000 a year from staking in Tezos, or this person made $125,000 because he bought $5,000 worth of Cosmos or Bogablos or whatever, some other coin 5 years ago, this will really start the engines. Here's the other article. And here's another thing right here for those of you not looking at the screen. It says Binance US CEO Catherine Coley explains why crypto exchanges are rushing into staking. This was during a podcast, I guess, called The Breakdown. I've never heard of that podcast myself, but it makes sense. They're trying to, like, most of these crypto exchanges already have banking licenses. And though they may not call themselves Binance Bank or Coinbase Bank or Kraken Bank, they are essentially banks. They hold in custody funds for people, and they allow people to transfer them and withdraw them. Just a bank of another name. I think that this is going to be a very big year, not only for, my opinion, not only for prices, but also for, here we go, for the upgrades that many coins said that we would see this year. Splitting that kind of down the middle as far as many of these coins, the addition of new staking coins on a lot of these platforms. I think some will obviously be more popular than others. I think Ethereum, if they can get proof of stake off the ground, will have a very good shot at the race as far as like being further ahead than everybody else or more adoption, what have you, so on and so forth. Anyway, that was the Binance adding 2 new staking coins to their platform. We're going to see more stuff like this. And I'm interested, and I hate rushing time as far as like, I want to be in the future. But I am interested to see exactly which coins are going to make it. Because imagine a world, stay with me, similar to Bitcoin. Not saying they'll have the same percentage of gains, but imagine a world where you put in 2,000-3,000 into some type of a staking coin right now, not financial advice. 10 years down the line, that money is now worth 800,000, let's say a rough million. This coin has really taken off. They have a huge use case. It's actually being used in finance and DeFi and all this other stuff. And every single year, you're making anywhere from 65 to 100,000 just off the staking of that one coin alone. If I had a time machine, I promise you, I would go onto a price website as quickly as I could, come back and tell everybody which coins made it so we could all share that amongst ourselves for whoever is listening to and or watching the channel, because I'm desperate to know which coins are going to make it. Not so much for like, oh, is Bitcoin going to make it? It's more like I'm expecting it to be Bitcoin and roughly around 10 to 15 other coins. Like if you don't expect other things like an Amazon coin or some other thing like that to also make it sometime in the future. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. You get the main gist of it. Let's move on. Oh, what's scary to think about is if Facebook has staking for Libra. I know it seems far-fetched, but there are a couple of companies who have tried stake or have initiated staking for like stable coins and stuff like that. So imagine a world where where you can stake your Libra. I mean, you wouldn't really get a lot, and you would see the actual inflation of Libra, and you'd also see the price price going down compared to Bitcoin, but you know that people would still jump on it because they would be able to brag to their friends, yeah, I'm staking Libra. Anyway, let's move on. Next up, blockchain.com, a Bitcoin wallet and exchange services provider, has enabled fiat gateways for the Turkish lira on its platform, announced on Wednesday. This will enable Turkish traders to deposit and withdraw the fiat directly from the blockchain.com exchange platform, which is facilitating trading options for the fiat against 3 digital currencies. They are Bitcoin, Ether, and Tether. The platform has launched a full banking integration for the gateway, eliminating the need for any third-party fiat services. There's a little tweet right there. Commenting on the move, Peter Smith, co-founder and CEO of the platform, said Turkey is one of the countries leading the charge in embracing cryptocurrencies, but its traders have been met with high fees and poor service. Blockchain.com is dedicated to providing a fair global market for today's crypto traders and setting a new standard for the service that they should not only expect but demand from exchanges. For those of you who don't know, the last 2.5 years, have been relatively rough on Turkey's currency. This headline is from beginning of this month. It says Turkey's annual inflation rate is at 11.84% in December. It's been bad for quite a while, and we've seen that Turkey has been one of the very few European countries who has kind of what's the word? Embraced cryptocurrencies when there's an actual need for it. Many other countries and many other people usually typically don't see a reason for cryptocurrencies or anything else until they are in a tight financial situation, which is what's currently happening in Turkey. And therefore, this is why we keep seeing news about Turkey, Venezuela, not Colombia. What's the other country? I think Brazil also has a huge uptick. South Africa is also seeing, I think it's Zimbabwe as well. We're seeing many countries that are undergoing larger than normal inflation, who are really starting to accumulate crypto and really start to understand it. And this is where, what's the word? This is where we will see these things really take off first. And don't be surprised if in 10, 15 years, these become some of the richest countries or have a huge amount of people who are wealthier than other countries because they got into crypto first. It's kind of how it is. Let's move on. Next up. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong says government currency is on track to be regarded as funny money as the U.S. national debt roars towards $31.4 trillion. 31.4 trillion with a T dollars over the next decade. Citing a new study published on Tuesday by the Congressional Budget Office, or the CBO, Armstrong, who runs Coinbase in the U.S., tweeted, "Consider crypto." Some of his 318,000 followers. The CBO report says the U.S. federal government debt will surge within 10 years. Surprise, surprise. Armstrong believes it will be a big blow to the financial system, one can only assume, establishing cryptocurrency as more sound and stable than the U.S. dollar. This is where things get too obvious for me. And if you've watched the channel before, you know how my brain kind of works. I hope so. The fact that so many banks and institutions, and even when we have a sprinkle of news that this person has left this company, this person has left Wall Street, this person has moved on from this and now they're in crypto, and they all keep flocking to the same industry, or we start getting governments talking to the International Monetary Fund, or we get this happening where this person's talking. It's becoming far too obvious to me that debt is probably not going to be wiped out. I do not foresee a future in the next ever where governments are going to come outside, hold hands, and start singing Kumbaya, saying, hey, let's all start over. No one has any more debt. So what's going to end up happening is this debt is going to, and I have numbers for you down there as well, which is going to get kind of weird. This is going to continue happening. And this is why I think we're seeing, this is, how I view things from my eyes, why we keep seeing a huge amount of movement towards cryptocurrencies, the acceptance of cryptocurrencies, the actual regulation of cryptocurrencies, because if these people didn't care for it, or didn't like it, or saw no real need for it, it would be banned, my opinion. They would have simply thrown it away. Who cares about it? We don't need it. Doesn't it seem kind of weird that all these governments and leaders and congressional leaders and senatorial leaders and all these other people around the world are either making laws for crypto, tax laws for crypto, accepting crypto? They've been found out to be a subsidiary of some other company who's mining crypto, who's buying Bitcoin, who's custodying cryptocurrencies, who's adding these coins. Why is there so much support for all these things? It feels like to me behind the scenes, people see the collapse of the current financial system. It may take 10 years, it may take 20 years, it may take 30 years for the entire thing to really hit the fan, if you will. But to kind of finish that entire thought, this is why do you understand what I'm saying? It feels far too obvious. We're having so much support for crypto. Even think back to the news that we had, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, I think it was the German Stock Exchange, and some other major entity who came out openly and were like, yeah, we've been buying Bitcoin since 2014. Well, that's weird. Many other people weren't. 6 years ago, they already saw the cracks in the wall, which is the current financial system, and they decided to push their backing energy behind something else. And this also leads to the same exact other situation we were talking about before. The people who adopted it first end up being the richest. But then what happens when we start having the first trillionaires on the planet and power, The CBO report says that the U.S. federal government debt will surge within 10 years. Armstrong believes it'd be a big blow. Establishment of cryptocurrency, yada, yada, yada. He said, as crypto is seen as a real money that people can't tamper with, at least control is decentralized and I can trust people to review the open source code. Why put your livelihood into something that could be manipulated or devalued without your input? The CBO projected the projected $31.4 trillion debt is the highest level since the end of World War II, equal to 98% of the GDP, the gross domestic product. Do you understand that means everything is made of debt that's never going to be paid back? Governments and banks keep printing money that is worthless. Have you ever seen those charts where they show like the value of the US dollar in like 1900, and then like it kind of goes up, and then around 1970, once we left the gold standard into where we are now, it's, I think, what is it, like it's lost like 99% of its value or something like that? Interesting times ahead. I feel like so much of what we're experiencing now, whether it be frustration or just simply life, I feel like crypto's prices are pushed down, or hampered isn't the word, pushed down, because people know where it's going to go once we have a financial crisis. And I feel like the financial crisis is being pushed back simply by printing money and saying, oh no, everything's fine, everything's simply okay. I watched something a couple of days ago on YouTube where they were talking about the advent of negative interest rates, and how 10 years ago, if you had said that to someone, they would have laughed in your face. That's never going to happen. And they had a map and they went over which country started doing it first. It was some of the Nordic countries. I think, is it Sweden or Norway? I can't remember. I think they have a negative interest rate of currently like negative 0.25 or something like that. And there are now talks about doing it within the US as well, to be able to get people to want to take out debt, which is absolutely insane, because you then push even further. You get people to take out a massive amount of debt because you have negative interest rates, and then you're essentially being paid to take out the debt. But what happens when these people, once again, like 2008 and 2009, can't pay back that debt? What happens when you can't lower interest? You can't, when interest rates are already negative, you can't lower them any further. You can't be like, well, the interest rates are now negative 2.5%. What if there's no more money? What if everyone is essentially broke? What if the debt has caused people to go bankrupt, especially the really big? Anyway, I don't want to say I'm waiting for a financial crisis. It's more like we know it's going to happen, kind of get it over with, and I want to see exactly where this is all going to go, because I still assume, whether it be through financial crisis or whether it be through Bitcoin getting there itself to 50,000, we're going to see a lot more support coming out of nowhere, and a lot of news articles talking about, hey, look how much money I made off of this digital currency, and that's going to start. I'm waiting for I'm waiting for the wave to finally hit. You can see that it's coming. You go to sleep and you wake up and it hasn't moved, when you know like it's just going to smack you in the face one day. Anyway, debt, $31.4 trillion of debt is not sustainable. And the fact that it goes up every single year, even if it's by 20, that's ludicrous, because none of this is ever going to be paid back. Debt is not going to be forgiven within your country, and it's not going to be forgiven by other countries. Right. Let's move on. In something that I guess makes a lot of sense, in a 27th of January post, Dragonfly Research proclaimed that Plasma is dead, noting that the Ethereum community is converging on optimistic roll-up despite initial enthusiasm. The news comes in stark contrast to earlier claims by the Plasma Group, arguing that the technology was moving into production phase. The original paper detailing the Plasma proposal was published in August of 2017. In essence, Plasma was conceived as a network of sidechains attached to the main Ethereum blockchain. They would have allowed offloading of the majority of transactional load, improving scalability by orders of magnitude. In theory. A common problem of sidechains is the requirement of its trust in its operators. Plasma attempted to solve this by ensuring the security of user funds even when the majority of sidechains operators misbehaves. The main takeaway is, without having to read through all of this, Plasma was touted as the Lightning Network of Ethereum. We used to have indications that apparently when Plasma was initiated on Ethereum, I think this is where we were getting those hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. Apparently, it might be dead. We had news a couple of days ago that apparently, once again, that it was close to being into production. However, I don't know. I feel like a lot of stuff, especially if you've noticed over the last couple of months, we've seen a lot more movement towards the discussion about Ethereum being simply the fork, and the fork allowing more transactions, and also not Mimblewimble, but like ZK Snarks being implemented on top of Ethereum, but not actually Plasma. We also don't really, we never really hear a lot from the Omise Go team. But where does that leave us? And to be fair, things like this do happen. This has happened many times for Bitcoin and many other blockchains. A lot of you may not have been here. There was an attempt years ago to activate something called colored coins, or I'm pretty sure it was called colored coins, where like they'd be essentially like a red coin and a blue coin on top of a blockchain, so you'd be able to like differentiate between them. There are always a lot of proposals. The proposals never end up really always going through. However, Plasma was supposed to be a major thing. If we end up getting Plasma, it just seems whatever. I'm gonna move on. I could ramble on forever, but I realize I just keep looking at the bird in the tree, just talking into the microphone. So there we are. In childish news for today, on the 27th of January, the Securities and Exchange Commission fortified its case against Telegram, saying that Telegram's Gram tokens were worth less than donuts. In the latest in their battle with Telegram and the Telegram Open Network, the SEC argued in a memo to the Southern District Court of New York. They said Telegram offered and sold grams as securities when it promised to deliver them in exchange for funds pursuant to the purchase agreement. That reality will not have changed if the court permits Telegram to deliver grams to the initial purchasers as part of a broad public distribution, which is in violation of Section 5, and which the court should enjoin, end quote. In the memo, the SEC includes a few barbs against the instant messaging service. It called out Telegram for being a two-step around the registration provisions and performing sleight of hand by fabricating the difference between a purchaser's investment in grams and the delivery of grams, which would allow them to withhold info normally and regulatory statements. Pavel Durov's creation, the document contends, gave a straw man argument about the existence since grams will never be tangible. The SEC put the frosting on it, then wrote, Telegram's attempt to avoid this economic truth by labeling grams commodities also fails. Grams are not commodities. Unlike gold, comic books, and Krispy Kreme donuts, commodities Telegram compares to grams. Grams have no intrinsic value. I wish we didn't live in a world where people were childish. I wish we didn't live in a world where outdated organizations didn't feel like they had to continuously bully people. How different would the world be if the SEC went up to a company and said, hey, we think one or two things might be incorrect. Could you please just help us, maybe change this? Just allow us to understand what you're going to do with the tokens. And, maybe have a bit more information from the people who are actually giving you the millions of dollars to do this. And yeah, when you have that information, we'll be all good to go. But instead, they open up court cases and they try to sue companies for tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, because they can't attack Bitcoin and they can't attack other companies. It all comes down to control, and it's very sad. If you've ever watched a documentary on, or even seen somewhere, like do research on this, as to the proposals of what blockchain could potentially provide in the future. Even just normal technology, it doesn't even have to be blockchain, just normal technology that we're going to have in the next 20 years. It comes down to governments not being needed, because all the stuff that governments do and say can essentially be automated. We can put the laws into a computer and someone can go to the computer and say, am I doing this correctly? And the computer goes, no, you have to change this. Okay, I'll change it. There's no real need for many government offices. There won't be a need for the SEC because you'll simply be able to, in the future, if you're trying to make an ICO and IEO and STO, what have you, you'll be able to write on the website, I'm trying to do this, and the AI will be able to tell you, this is not compliant. If you change this, this, and this, you'll be good to go. You change that, that, and that. The computer sees it and goes, okay, no problem. Start your tokens. There's no need for lawsuits. There's no need for all these things. I think a lot of this causes discord in the world. Like, why do you feel the need as an organization to bully people? And instead of, especially the SEC is supposed to be, I think the SEC and the CFTC being there to, it's supposed to be to protect consumers. Imagine if they actually just protected and tried to make sure that fraudulent things weren't being launched. I mean, especially, and I think the most annoyance is that they make sure to do it the day before something is launching. If something doesn't fall within their guidelines, they know it. They've heard about it. Someone has spread the rumor, spread the news to them. You can simply tell them a couple of months before. They did this to Telegram. They did this to Kick. They did this to Ledger X. They've done this to tons of other companies and organizations who are trying to have some type of a foray into the cryptocurrency space. And they make sure to tell them the day before they're going to launch that they've done something illegal. And then sue them to oblivion. And then I'm sure pat themselves on the back. It's terrible. And I may romanticize the future as this beautifully filled technology utopia, but I do look forward to a future where if you need answers, you can simply go to the computer and the computer won't compare what you've created to donuts or make fun of you. Or it seems completely pointless. Why do this? Here's the actual reply memorandum of law and support of motion against Telegram from the SEC. How wonderful. Let's move on. And this would also cause more people to actually, I think, trust governments. Why be hostile to someone? Well, I know why they're being hostile, because it is a 1 in 1 billionth chance of it ruining the economic sovereignty of anything that the US dollar might have. But it's a Telegram token. Like, people were gonna swap photos, and you know what kind of photos, and like send money back and forth. They always do too much. It's always more than should be done in a situation. Anyway, let's move on. And to finish things off, in once again news that was literally everywhere, I could not get away from this. Surojit Chatterley, former product leader of Google Shopping, left partner Alphabet, which is pretty much Google, to become chief product officer at Coinbase, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the United States. Coinbase announced late on Wednesday that Surojit Chatterjee, would lead its product organization. Chatterjee has worked for Google for 11 years, holding various roles. He also worked as product leader at Flipkart, an Indian online shop. Coinbase CEO Brad Armstrong. Brian Armstrong said that this particular role was a more valuable experience from the exchange's perspective than Goggle. Chatterjee's main long-term objective is to make cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin mainstream. The goal is to promote digital currencies to the point where they become ordinary options for paying for goods and services. Surojit said that they have witnessed firsthand how mobile phones have transformed the way we buy goods and services online. Thus, he sees how cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology can help open up the financial system for everyone by growing cross-border commerce, lowering transaction costs, providing high security, and by helping individuals have more control over their financial future. Everywhere. Every freaking where this news was all over the place. Congratulations to whoever this person is for working with Coinbase, because my actual goodness, no matter where you clicked, every single website had news about this person. To be fair, this goes back to what I was talking about. There's an invader there. At the beginning of the at the beginning of the video, we were talking about acquisitions. Acquisitions keep happening like this over and over. So I guess it's kind of big if you're leaving Google to go work at Coinbase. Yeah, I get the significance of it, but Every website, I mean, yeah, we'll see how this actually works out. And I mean, it is, in essence, it's kind of nice to see as well, because this does mean that crypto then has a smidge more, probably a larger jump ahead than it would have had before, because this person knows, I'm sure, many other rich people who can get the crypto ball moving. Did you guys ever, what was that book? It came out around 2013. 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there. There was a book that was discussing the actual beginning of Bitcoin, like the advent of it, the first, I think, year or 2 or 3 years after Bitcoin had first been released. And there was a part of the book which I found really interesting, because I think that people forget that events like this actually happen. It was this guy who was, I think he said he was sitting in like a hunting lodge, like a winter lodge, something rich. He was sitting there with a whole bunch of people, and he was discussing, I think, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to his friends, and he was like, yeah, I got it for about 4 cents, and now the thing is at $15, and they're like, yeah, well, it's only $15. So he told his friend to, I think, download one of the original apps for phones that were like one of the only ones that was out there. Told his friend to download it, and he sent his friend some Bitcoin through it, and I think it took around 18 seconds to send, and his friend was like, how'd you do that? And he was like, you sent money that rapidly. He's like, our banks can't do that. So apparently everyone else around the table also started discussing it as well, and really got into it. And apparently a couple of these people who were listening to what this guy was saying are now very big figureheads in the cryptocurrency space. Why? Because sitting inside of a hunting winter rich lodge, whatever, they overheard someone talking about cryptocurrencies, and they decided to get into cryptocurrencies, and they started buying tons of Bitcoin. And what that happened when he was just sending money to his friend right there, it caused an explosion of money to also hit the market. So I think people forget that crypto is, once again, more than just us going over the news. It's also rich people making huge bets on the future of where this is going to go. And let us not forget that rich people hold an immense amount of influence. And let us not also forget that the former head of Bakkt, who is the wife of the guy who runs the New York Stock Exchange, is now a senator in the US as well. Are the gears moving? Because they definitely should be. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Tigara Macho Nisa, Bake Me a Cake, Arfmedic 17, Anytime Fitness, Monk's Corner Staff, Bodie McBoatface, Yes to Crypto, Miller Hitch Test Every Day, and Cal Skips Leg Day, Minting Coins, Jeremy Fox, Nope, Jim Gardner, I was going back down, Anthony Charles, Nick Mangelavori, Paxis, Krypton Beer Shipmate, Vlad the Impaler, Damien, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich III, Nicholas, One Earth, One Peace, One Love, Crypto Artist, Coldy 3D, Miluizi, Adobo, Bankroll Network, Crypto Joe, 242 to the World, Mohair Maroni, Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Neal, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, Adam Graysick, Todd Mullis, Barebones Mining, a Bibliophobia Chongololo, Songololo, Nostromo, Mr. Pickles, John Sarson, the Animal Reader, and Professor Wally from Gunbot University. Thank you all very, very much for your support, and thank you to everyone who is a supporter of the channel. I doth appreciate it. At the moment, the market is red, but not a big red. Bitcoin is currently down by 0.10%. There was apparently a big dip during the evening. I don't know how low we went, but it looked like someone tried to push the price below 9,000. Lo and behold, we are back exactly where we were yesterday. It's nice to see fluctuations, whether they be organic or not. It's nice to see that there are people, once again, interested in the cryptocurrency market. For those of you who have a memory, you might remember just a couple of months ago, the 24-hour trading volume of XRP was around 600 million, and now it's 1.3 billion. So, progress. We're moving forward. I think Ethereum also had like 3.7 or something like that billion all the time, and now it's 8.55. I think Bitcoin had 19, and now it's 27. Things are moving forward. It may seem like a lull day for prices. Maybe, here we go. Tomorrow is Brexit. So maybe that will have some type of an impact on the prices as well. We will see as we slither our way into February. Yeah, everything's relatively lull. What were the coins that were added? Algorand was added, and what was the other one? I don't see it. Anyway, yeah. I expected a jump from those coins, but alas, here we are. Atom, Cosmos is also in the red. Maybe people just don't know yet. Yeah, that's it. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See ya.